Welcome everyone to another session here at the Winter SmartCom Summit, sponsored by CPaaS Acceleration Alliance. My name's Kevin Nethercott from the Alliance, and we're excited today to have two of my special friends in the CPaaS space from the EMEA region. First, we have Sebastian Schumann from Deutsche Telekom. Sebastian, welcome.
Thanks, Kevin. Glad to see you. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely. And then from the EAN group that is overseeing the enterprise business is Ahmed Omer. Ahmed, thank you for joining.
Hey, hi guys, good morning or good evening, wherever you are.
Hey.
Exactly. So it's good morning for me here in the U.S. and good afternoon, late afternoon in Germany, and I guess we're touching the evening time frame there in Dubai.
It is indeed.
So really appreciate you joining us this day. I think the conversation that we're about to have is going to be really meaningful for many people out there. I think we're all recognizing that this is going to be the year of the CPaaS in many respects. Analysts are telling us that we're going to go from about a $15 billion market to nearly $30 billion over the next 4 or 5 years. And so we're going to see, I think, significant growth. And I really look at both of your organizations as leaders in this space. And so I think, the first question for me is, why CPaaS? Why did your organizations, you're both very large, you've got mobile properties, you're strong telcos regionally. What is it that really kind of got you excited to make the investment around why you wanted to launch CPaaS services? So, Ahmed, why don't you share a little bit about your journey and how that decision was made and why EAN is in the business?
Thanks, Kevin, and glad to be with you guys in this very excited panel. Now, this has all been driven by a vision that the company has adopted from moving from a telecom-based company into technological conglomerates, and this was actually the transformations of the former company of Etisalat to be EAN. And as part of the EAN, it created the right environments for the different technological streams to run in a segmented approach. So there is a segment for enterprise, there's a segment for the consumer-based technology, and there's something for the international, and there's also something for the venture capital, which is EAN Capital. Now, in the EAN Enterprise, and this is the home of our enterprise-grade solution, the thinking process was to diversify to the max, to extend the capabilities that we have today, leveraging, of course, the telecom infrastructure that we have today, but also go vertically in the value chain, trying to scale up in the value. And that's where it goes. It went very well with the revolution that the CPaaS have witnessed in the last 3-4 years. And unfortunately, the COVID was there. But fortunately for this business, it's actually boomed all the contactless engagement. And this is where we've seen a great opportunity window for us to really excel and validate these use cases. So we went into each and every vertical. Of course, it started with the healthcare, when people was actually trying to receive their COVID test, engage into appointments, etc. and etc. And these communication capabilities was a necessity, where it used to be a complementary requirement for some of those organizations. And this is where we started to position the CPaaS concept. We've created the concept, and I will explain maybe in the few questions further. But when it comes to the why, it's been driven by the consumer needs, it's been driven by the business transformations agenda, and it went extremely well with the vision of the conglomerate group of EAN Group.
Excellent, excellent. No, I think you're hitting some key points that, frankly, any carrier around the world is probably contemplating as they look at the infrastructure, the investment, particularly now into the 5G and so forth. How do we get an ROI in that investment and also meet, the needs of the customer? Sebastian, you and I go a few years back on this. And I know that CPaaS has been a passion of yours. You really come from it, in many respects from a development perspective with your background. And so as Deutsche Telekom has taken on, this new opportunity, this new business line, maybe share a little bit about your journey personally, as well as how this has evolved into, Deutsche Telekom taking on this new challenge.
Yeah, I think from a DT perspective, I can only second what Ahmed also said. Scaling up the value is certainly something we as DT or DT is interested in. We see a lot of traffic from other CPaaS players. So for me, CPaaS is no longer an innovation topic as it is an innovation. It's actually proven that it works. The companies that terminate with us, that create this value, they work. They may transform a bit here and there. We see the recent layoffs and so on, but overall, it has been proven that there is value and that there is customer interest, and not just wanting termination that we offer so far as well, but that they actually want more. So for me, it's an innovative topic rather than an innovation topic. There's a lot of potential in, and of course, recent business analyst forecast, but also business decision by other companies purchasing CPaaS stakes or CPaaS players, or however you want to call them, CPaaS providers, getting their shares here set, I think was something very that of course was the last reminder for anyone that wasn't there yet. That is some topic that is important to dive in. For me personally, it was that already longer, as you mentioned. I thought for a long time that instead of complaining that there's a decline in minutes and in traffic, there's so much you can do being in a position that DT is, being a recognized brand, being associated with communication across the board. So it was a natural for me to go that way, to try to push that since many years in many different positions in the company. And also one of my kind of personal challenges was always to do that from within. Yeah, I could have gone to a CPaaS provider, but I always thought there's a lot of potential, not just from a CPaaS proposition, but also from a transformation perspective. Yeah, people transformation, how we as a telco set ourselves up. So I think it was interesting enough to spend a lot of personal time in it as well, and to get some of that value, of course, transformed into the numbers in the end that a company makes, and to scale also the revenues here, but on the other hand also evolve the organization and do what's been proven in the market, but from a perspective of a carrier, and also utilizing, of course, the assets we have as a carrier, which is our customer base that has the increasing demands, as was also mentioned. So I think we've seen these demands, and we try our best to fulfill them, and not to say, sorry, we have basic connectivity, but for anything more, you got to look elsewhere. We want to offer that ourselves, and we see a lot of value here in doing that for our customers, but also together with them, to really see what they need and to then build that with partners.
No, that makes so much sense. So as you look at this, I think we're going to throw the term CPaaS out probably quite a bit in this session, but I want to remind our audience that really that's the technology behind it, and I think what you're going to hear as we tell stories and talk through where we're at in the market, it really is about customer engagement, right? I think that's ultimately what the end user, the enterprises that you're interacting with are looking for, is how do they create a sticky, trustworthy relationship with the consumer. There's so much competition and options out there for us as consumers that really that customer engagement for the companies is critical. But I also believe that getting that to work, at the end user level has its own set of challenges. I think the technology is much more robust and easier to implement, over the last 24, 36 months compared to, a few years ago. But what are, maybe a couple of the key challenges that you've had to overcome to really make this successful? So if we look at E-end, what are some of the things that you had to work through to get to the success level that you're at?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I think the definition is so important for the audience and for the industry experts as well, because we're usually very good at bombarding people with all of these acronyms and terminologies. And I think you position it very right when it comes to the customer engagement. And to be honest, I would be a bit bold by saying that this is a customer experience as a service rather than really a communication platform as a service. Now, when it comes to your specific questions around the challenges, one of the things that we've noticed at this part of the world is how could this layer of free APIs or RESTful APIs can actually be utilized in the enterprise applications, in the enterprise engagement tools when it comes to the consumer. What everybody sees today is a small chatbot window in their mobile apps or probably an interactive message through WhatsApp for business channel, or probably an SMS that he received into his device for any promotional campaign. But behind that, there is a lot of intelligence and logic that need to be developed, integrated, melted very well in the business processes of the enterprise. And we found today where 10 years ago, all of these capabilities used to be built in-house with infrastructure, tools, capabilities, gateways, setup. All of this can be actually replaced with a 4-line of code that can be called from the cloud. And that's the beauty of the CPaaS and the API topic. Now, because of this 4-line of code, we've witnessed a shift in the educational mindsets of our customers, our enterprise. All of them are into the level of understanding the value, but how to integrate that component with 4 different applications, an ERP, a CRM, a third internal IP system that's belonged to the company itself, or something that's been legacy there for 30 years. And this is where we say for these type of challenges, when enterprise and government customers are not able to take a full advantage of a CPaaS API, we've introduced the layer of what we call a developer advocate. And interestingly, this actually becomes our unique value proposition. And this is what we went to the enterprise customers. You go and buy the APIs, and you will have the professional services to be onboarded on as part of the offering. So whenever you want to call these 4-line of code, we will ensure that this 4-line of code has been embedded well into your business processes, applications, or on a standalone server that could be in the DMZ calling these APIs from the internet. It's an exciting learning journey that we've been through. We was able to fail fast and then recap and learn. And now we've mastered the game. And I think one of the fewer players, I would say, that we are proudly have a unique set of developers who actually deliver this unique value and make sense out of these APIs. And eventually, as you rightly said, what the consumer will see at the end of the day is a very well seamless experience, well connected to his experience in purchasing, buying an item, receiving a notification or a delivery, or even raise a ticket through those channels with the customer care agent.
Right. Now, I want to come back to a couple of points that you mentioned there, but I wanted to also get Sebastian's take on this. Please share a little bit about your journey and some of the challenges that you've overcome that you think might be useful for us to learn from.
Yeah, I certainly think that the developer advocate is was a nice example here, and a good role to have. I think for us, there are 3 points. I think it's confidence, it's somehow compliance, and the organization at large. I think from a confidence perspective, of course, we are wondering, how, especially as an incumbent, our role is understood also by our customers. To what extent can we help them? To what extent do they expect developer support? And on the other hand, what are the right people to involve? Do we build this expertise up internally? Do we partner here with integrators? Do we do that depending on the segment? So there's a lot of alignment. In general, there is a bit more of a conservative view, I would say, in BT being a more conservative carrier into what we can do ourselves and where we need to partner. Certainly, I have a view on that, which is, I guess, a bit different than some of the other more conservative parts of the organization. But I think that's certainly one of the points where we went through a phase and still are going through that phase of finding ourselves. The other point is the organization and the compliance as parts of that. So when I described the launch journey, I mean, despite the fact that I'm doing this for many years, especially looking at the last 3 years, we had a fairly similar proposition at the end of each year, which could have gone live. Yeah, we could have gone live with an offer end of 2020 that was similar to the offer we had end of 2021, and at end of last year we finally did launch with a partner-based offering in our developer portal, and we are now shaping some of the offerings, also some of the ways we offer CPaaS to particular markets. And I think the fact that we have to go through all compliance stages any product has to go through at a carrier, since it was in the end a product that has not been spun out or launched by a small part of the organization, but in the end under the telecom brand, and in the future also with numbers from us already carrying our connectivity. I think there are a lot of challenges that an organization has to go through with a product like that, because the understanding of how APIs work, the foundation, also what the fact what customers actually want, how do you provide them what they want. Yeah, we had I was almost exclusively involved in when the customer wanted some features that we didn't have in a standard offering, and acting a bit like this developer advocate that also Ahmed mentioned, to try to really help also the sales teams, because one of the biggest challenges is scaling that across the customer base, scaling the knowledge into the sales force that we have, and making sure everyone knows now that we have this new type of product, which also comes with different paradigms. You sell it differently, you use it differently, and in order to launch fast, it was still considered fast, I would say, you also need to make some compromises when it comes to the integration. So existing customers, if you address customers in one country, customers in other countries, customers from different segments, they partially exist in different systems as well. So to make sure you're fine with a certain breakpoint in their experience, just to go out there and not to go through another 2 years of making sure every last OSS/BSS system is integrated, is certainly one of the challenges. So I think the challenges are much more in an organization-wide approach, and if you don't take that, the willingness to start somewhere rather than have this whole complete proposition that you would usually have on products, or the very clear focus. So we had a focus, but it was a focused launch basically that we did, and I think building on that focused launch, taking into account other discussions, is something we are currently, as we speak, dealing with, and making sure we find the best approach to serve also the width of the customer base that we have, and to, on one hand, make sure we get maybe some of the customers back that already went to some of the competitors with an offer that's good enough for that. On the other hand, make sure we take those customers that are in the process of digitalization in quotes, so of essentially dealing with these new forms and channels for customer engagement, integrating their own digital processes, which means processes that are more driven by automation than they are by people interacting the classic way. Right. I think a lot of these changes we are still learning, and I guess we need to be willing also to learn and to do that with our customers. Even though while otherwise we launch usually very mature propositions in the market. So I don't think it's a bad thing here to launch something where you still learn and where you also adapt. The question is that going to be the only way to go to the market, or do you find different ways to address different companies with different sizes and maybe with different expectations as well? Yeah.
Right. No, that makes sense. I think both of you have been passionate about this space, and so I think one of the key obstacles or challenges is getting the rest of your organization on board. I don't know if either of you have just a brief comment or suggestion on what did you do that was a bit of a breakthrough that allowed you to get upper management to get behind the project. If you have just maybe a quick anecdotal story or thought on what that breakthrough was. Sebastian, if you want to just maybe share.
I can start. Something. I mean, for me, it was always the approach I personally took. I mean, in big corporations, there are a lot of there's a lot of slides you see and people talking about things. What I always try to do, and I guess we've been partnering also while you were back at Maven here or Telestack. So I always try to show things, to make things tangible, to show, to say, you know, whatever we present, whatever we put on slides, we have as a demo available. Yeah, we can show it. We know that demo. I didn't need to bring in vendors to show that. I could do that myself, and I was confident I can drive that to some extent through the organization and to make sure other people can do that. We also, from day one, my background is a technical organization supporting the international wholesale unit. So I always made sure I understand, on one hand, the business problem. On the other hand, what I'm presenting is also built on the foundation that, of course, it's a prototype, but we are confident we can scale this. We are confident we can manage the technology, and really not coming empty-handed, but coming with something you can demo, with something you can show. You know, having a question from one of the managers I presented that to, and being able to log in and quickly, you know, actually build the answer, you know, build a small flow, or say, wait a second, you know, I can show that right away. I think that certainly gave the confidence into what I started, and keeping that approach to the very end, not just talking, but rather launching a small increment and bringing that really within a very short amount of time with a very small team to a launch-ready proposition that went through all the things I just mentioned, through all the challenges in the organization. So we did that with SMS only. You know, that means we understand the processes. We have a team that can execute, and I think that's worth significantly more than just talking about it. So that, I would say, is the story that I can share. Really, doing it and not just talk about it, and be open to being supported by partners. Finding the right partners is certainly important, but making sure you do that and you show everyone in their particular place what they gain. So articulate to the business side, but also within the technical units, to really show, you know, that there are new technologies they can manage, that there are new ways of, you know, interacting with customers, and that many things will change with CPaaS. I think we're certainly a motivator for many colleagues as well to support me in that journey.
Right. So it sounds like, I mean, essentially you took some of the same steps that I would as a salesperson selling to the enterprise, right? Being able to kind of show a POC, show it working, hearing their needs quickly, you know, taking advantage of the power of the platform and showing them immediately. So that makes total sense. How about on your end? Is it different in the Emirates on the approach? What was kind of a key breakthrough for you?
So a very exciting story, Sebastian. I'm always a big fan of breakthroughs, startups, entrepreneurship, thought process within telcos and operators, because, to be honest, it's 3x difficult than doing this on a standalone basis. And not because of anything, because of the well-established processes in doing business, and it's not meant to be for a telecom industry. This is an application-based business. This is a software business that's been introduced dramatically in the recent few years. And for me, the story was a bit different because, again, I mean, we had the right environments all the way from the country. I mean, if you look at UAE, KSA, the region is in the growth trajectory, and it's moving to the directions where it adopts and incubate all of these new ideas, new thought process. And this has been cascaded also in the vision of the group. And that's why, with EAN Enterprise being the B2B arm of the group, it actually helped us to have the right home for such creativity and innovation. And I think I remember when we was doing the business case, trying to validate the opportunity, we went through the full stack of the value chain, and the bosses said, guys, you're so bold and so ambitious. But again, the practicality was exactly what Sebastian said. We had to bring the first customer. We wanted to onboard the first customers. We brought the first partner. We made sure that the whole end-to-end service applied in one use case. And I think this is where people have started to believe that there is a story behind it. And to be honest, we've also rebranded ourselves as a startup unit or a startup entity. And that's the beauty also of this new home that we are in EAN Enterprise, where we had the luxury to go and position ourselves as a brand by EAN Enterprise, and we call it Engage X, representing E for the EAN group, Engage because it's an engagement-based services, and X representing the big base of consumers. So we had a vision behind the view, and we believe that this is a home that will allow us to scale up in the value. Now, when it comes to making it happen on the ground, I think back to what Sebastian mentions, validating this with a couple of customers, especially on that enterprise stage, made the big difference. And back again to the business model that we've introduced, though that we started with the big enterprises because it was a quality game rather than quantity. When we've learned across our deployments, we found that breaking down all of these deliverables to the enterprise segment really helped us to have a predefined use cases for the small, medium business. And this is where we was able now to tackle all the set of customers. The big guys equipped with the developer advocate because of the capacity, but for the small guys, we went through the 80-20 rule. So we've seen what does the 80% of the base on the SMB wants, and we provided that 20% of use cases and capabilities for these guys to scale up and make it easier. Of course, it's not far away from you guys that the IVR, click to call, the number masking, all of two-factor authentications. Now we're talking about the silent authentication. All of these small clicks that actually make a huge processing and computing capabilities makes a big difference for a small, medium business who really wanted to scale up in the e-commerce platform. So yeah, it was also an exciting story in our end. We breaking through with a small team. We've grown up both the business and the capabilities and the partnership ecosystem as well. And we started to have a bigger believer community, not across the organization, but even outside, including you guys.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think it's really interesting, your two answers, because obviously in my role at Telestacks in the past, I've worked with, I don't know, 50 plus carriers around the world in some format or another. And both of these answers represent almost 100% of the opportunities, where we had some visionaries inside the organization that knew that this was really cool. This could make a difference for their business, very similar to Sebastian's example, and kind of coming, what I'd say, from the bottom up and really getting people excited. And then we have others, and I think this is becoming more and more common, where it's almost a board decision now that we're getting in the CPaaS business. This is part of our overall group vision. And so it's really coming from the top down on go make this happen. And so I know that that's one of the things here at the CPaaS Acceleration Alliance that we're trying to help educate both sides, where we can become a community where we can share these concepts and ideas and help that journey come along. Something that you said there, right there at the end, Ahmed, is around, I mentioned the 15 billion to 30 billion part of the business and what we expect over growth. And as I've been interacting with analysts over the last couple of months, it seems that each of them with their new report is talking about the SME or the SMB market. So for you as an operator, oftentimes I think, well, big brand, big customers. But I'm now a strong believer that really CPaaS 3.0 is going to be around the SMB market. The long tail is where we're going to get the most growth. You talked about the 80-20 rule. Can you share a little bit more about the importance of the SMB market moving forward? And if there's any specific use case that you'd like to bring up that's maybe taking it to the next level, making it low code, no code. Maybe we have a little discussion about the importance of that and the acceptance of how the market can then really digest and use these services in a much broader way.
So the SMB or the SME topic has been a very exciting challenge to the CPaaS player. We believe today across the regions, and we are talking about the major countries of UAE, KSA, Egypt, and Pakistan, and Morocco, where we believe that the actual growth in both GDP and in the industry will actually be driven by the small, medium business, especially in the service industry. And this is where the thought process also has been evolved. And since the last time we had this chat about the low code, no code, we also has evolved into this level, because when we was ready to give the small, medium business entities a tool that will allow them to do stuff, it seems these guys are very busy to grow and to serve and to do business and not to focus at actually building such capabilities. And this is where the thought process came into the form of a marketplace where it will allow them to have these use case as a service, which means you will be able now to go and buy the whole bundle of that specific use case, including the multiple channel. multiple channels. Something that we are doing interestingly with a partner where we wanted to provide small medium business with what we call business essentials. So in this level, we've combined multiple of these use cases and the IVR, click to call, number masking use cases, and probably setting up the WhatsApp for business with a small chatbot that has a basic quantities in a one-time, one shop, one stop buy, where the experience will be as you are buying today a Netflix account or probably an Office 365 pack. So as an SME, I know today that I will launch my restaurant or my coffee shop and etc. And I wanted to promote for my products, and I wanted to onboard people. Probably I would like them to buy some of the few stuff, and I would like to answer their inquiries. It's a very simple consumer experience when it comes to the small medium business. So you buy a bulk of what we call business essential, and this is where you will be able to have your promotional campaign sent over different channels, acquire the set of customers that you would like, inform them about the products and the capabilities that you have with an e-commerce options. They will always be able to buy, subscribe, and onboard their services, and eventually, of course, receive the bill and the invoices and raise any ticket or complaints accordingly. Of course,
Oh, wow.
there is a component of the loyalty which comes later on, but we wanted to cover again the 80-20 rule. So with this 5-6 stages, you would think now clear that this is something that can happen with the SME in a click. And this is where the thought process has evolved all the way from what we used to talk about 2 years ago, an API given to that guy with the development capability, integrating his mobile app and website, and probably integrate a low-code, no-code interface where he will be able to drag and drop things, and probably add another additional of an application layer will be in-house. I think what has happened in this part of the world, especially in the service industry, that all of these aggregators platforms, the food aggregation, the utility and logistic aggregations, have actually made people move away from the brand's applications and the brand websites. And now these guys, they want to bring their identity back because these guys have been very expensive and they've been sharing a lot of the revenue. And now there is a wake-up call where these people want to go back to their own brands, to their own channels, and try to create their unique identity. And we are there to help them, especially this mass market who is focused at their core business. I hope it answered the question.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great. So, Sebastian, I know that you and I actually have a little bit of experience on the low-code, no-code. We had some offerings. You had some open source that you built at some point. So I know you have an opinion on this. So I'd like to get your take on, why this was so important to you as you were looking to roll out the services.
Yeah, thank you. I think there are two, and this also goes a bit into the question on one hand that you asked earlier about SME, but also for me there are two types of salespeople in the end and two types of customers. Yeah, there are those customers that rather are prone to wanting a solution like 2FA, like an engagement tool with a website, a front end, and so on, ready to use. And there are salespeople that will be, because they used to sell products, they will only be able to sell products, or that are used to selling products. Yeah, so they are not really trained yet to sell API capabilities, and also there's not really a demand for capabilities in some segments. But then there are other segments, and I think this is much more common, that you have a lot of customers who look themselves for capabilities, who are very understanding of the basic principles of maybe not APIs, but at least the capabilities they need to get to where they want to get. And you, on the other hand, have also salespeople that consider the products they sell a bit differently. So they want to configure them themselves for the customer. They want to show things to the customer, what's possible with it. They dive in much deeper. They don't just configure products, but they can do more. And I think here is exactly the point where no-code, low-code comes into play. It will be easier for both the customers as well as the people selling it. So I think for both sides have an advantage here. So, while I can go in a session with a customer and instead of whiteboarding something, build things. I mentioned it earlier, that I did that even in a board meeting, build things directly in these applications. So it will be much easier. It's a drag and drop kind of way with very simple logic with elements you put together that you want to fit together. So it's important that there is, a connector system on both sides. But I think it will be much easier for us in the sales process to sell to any of these customer groups. And on the other hand, for customers that discover that have a certain need and want to discover the features, they have to discover them in a way that they can simply try things out. Yeah, I think it's less for those customers that have a big IT department or IT savvy person that can actually develop. They will always be able to use the APIs because we will describe them in a way. They use other APIs like from Twitter and so on. But when it especially comes to building communication flows, making sure you have, you deal with multiple channels, you want to make sure you can also map, I would say, more complex customer journeys. The support of a no-code, low-code platform here is quite tremendous because you can get to points where you just couldn't go before if you wouldn't be not just wouldn't be able to code, but also to understand, let's say, the logical flow of an application. Because if you develop, you're just writing code that's producing code, but you also need an understanding of the logic you want to have in there. What do you want to check? Where do you want to exchange data with an external platform? What kind of ways, what kind of channels, and what decisions you want to make in that engagement with the customer. And I think a no-code, low-code platform is two things. On one hand, it helps you in realizing it, but on the other hand, the visualization part is in the end a very important element to make sure for those customers who want it, they manage to own also more complex flows, and in the end also discover new capabilities, because I think it's much easier to drag and drop a new feature that we released into such a flow, to release actually small helpers, small functions, and put them in there, rather than needing to describe the advances of your next SDK release, especially to that big market segment. We're not talking about IT experts and actual programmers here who write code all day, every day, but really these people in the middle. And I think this is really something the organization, from an education perspective and also from what everyone can do in the organization, will go much beyond what they could do so far, and also for the customers. I think these two will benefit here equally. And the role of a sales engineer in terms of engineering, taking back the engineering requirements, giving them to an engineering team, and then presenting a solution, will be much lighter as a process as well for us carriers.
Right. No, I've got a fun story. I was sitting in front of one of the largest banks in New York City, and they were talking about this sophisticated integration with 2 or 3 other systems, and I wish it could do this, and I wish it could do that. And we were talking, and I looked to my left, and my wingman solution architect has his head down. He's kind of doing this, trying to pay attention, and so we're about 10 minutes away from the top of the hour, and we've been in with them maybe 40 minutes or something. And so they kind of finished talking, and my solution architect says, "You mean this?" And he literally, on the fly, had built exactly what they needed, showed a demonstration of it, and there was like complete silence for 90 seconds. Their jaws were on the floor. They were these IT guys that typically it would take them months and months to have somebody on their team pull this together. And here we put it together in like 20 minutes. And so there really is, a significant power in these drag and drop low code, no code tools. So it's pretty exciting on the impact it can have, and the impact it can have on your sales teams as well, because now you don't have to have as sophisticated SEs. You can have people that are more salesman-ish, if that's a word, and be able to be very technical and show what's there. So I'm a huge proponent of this as new technologies and new integrations and new tools come on. I think this will really change our industry. I want to take the conversation. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just interestingly, something that popped up in my mind also of how does this industry or this technology really keep surprising us. And when low code, no code was actually the talk of the industries, and we was extremely excited and surprised with it. Now we went to the level where we've started to see this predefined packages also helping customers. And again, I think one of the examples that we've seen is the silent authentication. For example, when we had the 2-factor authentication as a security element, where people used to define the number of the digit in the time proposed, Now with the silent authentication, it's a predefined service that's been available that actually move totally out of this interactive interaction that people has in the mobile apps and the web based. So just to complement where this craziness is going, Kevin, I think there is more surprises coming in the way for us.
I appreciate that. I think you're absolutely right, because the platforms are becoming that's what's interesting, is the more sophisticated they get, the easier they need to be to use. And I think we'll see more and more vertical oriented use cases and capabilities that'll really drive the industry. I wanted to take the conversation in a slightly different direction for a moment. I find it fascinating that both of you are providing WhatsApp services as an omni-channel. So if I think of a wireless mobile network operator, you have SMS, you're looking to deploy RCS, maybe Google Messages, Apple. WhatsApp seems like a competitor. How is it that you as a provider are able to provide that as a service? And how does that make you more competitive? Because it seems counterintuitive that a carrier would provide WhatsApp services. In fact, I believe in UAE, some years past, WhatsApp was almost banned. So now it's a channel. So tell me a little bit about omni-channel and how you as a provider can actually offer these services and what advantages that now gives you in the market. Ahmed, why don't you take that one first?
Sure. I mean, for us, you mentioned a very critical topic when it comes to the WhatsApp, and I think it's very important for the audience to distinguish WhatsApp, which is a consumer-based channel, and WhatsApp for business. And I think this is where the channel is WhatsApp for business. And to be honest, being the largest platform where consumers are interacting today, WhatsApp is a very default engagement model when it comes to the omni-channel. And to be honest, now talking about a multi-channel approach, there is no way WhatsApp is a competitor, because when it comes to the communications, when it comes to B2B, a person to a person, this discussion has been waved off long time ago, when WhatsApp has came in the pictures and people start sending messages to each other and move to this new channel for engagements. I think what's new to the industry and to everyone is when brands started to communicate with consumer using this channel. And to be honest, it simplified the life of millions and millions of people, where delivery, notifications, updates about your government transactions, important thing that has happened in your day-to-day activity with specific brands are being moved into this channel. So for me, to be honest, I think it's incremental to everyone, because this is, again, a WhatsApp for business communications. When it comes to brand and consumer, this is an application to people. It's not people to people. And for that, it was incremental to everyone. And it was a new channel for us. And also for the people who doesn't really see that as a value, because this is definitely not a threat to any existed business or any existed traffic. Now, this complements also the overall story, where the fallback options will always be available. So now you'll be able to communicate through the voice, the SMS, the WhatsApp for business. And we've even extended that today to social media, where you will always have also your preferred channel. So we will be able to send you your birthday wishes when you are in Facebook Messengers. We will be able also to send you a reminder of a specific discount on a brand when it comes to Instagram. And this is where it gets to the value chain, where sentiment analysis and all of this social listening started to come in the picture. And it's a new area that we are also discovering and learning and trying to evolve. The buzzword is there. However, I think the actual practical implementation is still not yet there. But I think for me and for us in the company, I don't think it's a challenge. It's more as an opportunity. And it's something that was not there and was not captured at all.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I think that ties back to what we started the conversation around customer experience, right? And so, meeting the consumer where they're at is absolutely critical for businesses. And so Absolutely, those are great points. Sebastian, you had
And
something to add?
usually also, Kevin, just to complement, don't forget that
Yeah.
these are user-based communication. So it's actually the user who will define what will be the preferred channel for me. So I was just renewing my car license today, and guess what? The RTA have given me many options of when my preferred time of delivery. And they asked me actually, which channel would you prefer? Would you prefer to have a voice call, an SMS, or WhatsApp? And please provide your mobile number with a consented item that you don't mind us to do that. So majority of these interactions, in fact, 82% of the traffic that we have around the CPaaS, it's user driven. It's only 12 to 15% all of this promotion and message and all of these campaigns and etc. But everything is being driven by the user. He chose and he decided to have this channel as a medium of communication and information.
Yeah, I think these partnerships, and I call it partnerships, are important. I think we have to distinguish a bit. There are, of course, as there are parts of the organization who are competing with other carriers. For example, the organization I'm working for in the business unit, they partner. We connect with other carriers that are actually also competitors in some places. And the same way for us, partnering with these channel partners, on one hand, it's important because it adds other channels. It makes our the offering and what we can enable more relevant. We partner with them anyways already. Yeah, some of them are traffic originators as well when it comes to SMS and voice, for example. So there are established partnership models. We just add their capabilities in. And from a CPaaS perspective, if I put my CPaaS hat on, so while we make money with SMS as a group, that's not where I would, from a CPaaS perspective, at least, I need to be careful now, but from a CPaaS perspective, that's not where the value is in the SMS volume. It's how I can scale up, the margins with useful use cases. And from that perspective, having WhatsApp as another channel, I don't care the shift between SMS and WhatsApp to that sense that I do not think the value lies in the volume in the end, and that there's, volume leaving us classic telco traffic, but it's what I do on top with it. And here, of course, if I have more channels and if I have more ways of serving the enterprises and enable them to get in contact in the end with their customers, the value creation there should to large extent outweigh the loss in actual traffic that I have potentially. So I think on one hand, it's a partnership. We deal with these companies that are also competitors the same way we deal with other competitors, and there are a lot of partnerships in place, good relations in place, for me it's just natural we add channels with more capabilities because the one unique channels Telcos thought to have eventually, the RBM channel, to mention that as well, is not fully complete. Yeah, it's Android only and only for part of the users. So there's always, for that offer to be at any point relevant, you need a supplement to reach the rest. Yeah, and that's at least Apple is in that game for the rest. But depending on the markets and on the market share, there are other players and other channel partners as well. So I think for any multimedia offering you want to add on top of the text-based messaging, you need more channels than RBM, and you need to have a mix following the customer preferences and sometimes also the capabilities of the channels, which also differ. So I think omni-channel is relevant here, but I think maybe that's because we come from the wholesale background, we have a specific view on this. But I think even if not, if you do CPaaS, you should do it not just to increase your SMS business, but to really create value for the customer, and then it will just come naturally that you think of other channels. Even if you maybe cannot imagine it now, it will just be something your customers. We see that coming from customers, but there's also a natural reasoning, let's say, for it when you look at it from a customer value perspective.
Right. No, that's great input, and I think that's one of the very unique parts of our business now that. Again, I think there needs to be some education to carriers and others out there that this is an option, right? And you don't have to feel defeated by these, over-the-top brands or these, mega platform social media plays, but you can actually partner with them, as you've described, to enhance your business, enhance that user experience, which at the end of the day is really the goal of everything that we're doing here. We've had an amazing session here today. We could go on for I think 2 or 3 more hours. I would love to get back together and talk about sales enablement and some different areas inside your organization that I think plays a key role in the future and how you go to market. And so maybe we can do that another time. But I wanted to ask, more on a personal basis, what's ahead for each of you over the coming weeks? I know that we've got MWC as an industry, but on a personal level, any travel plans, anything interesting going on in Germany as we hopefully transition from winter to spring? What's on the docket for you, Sebastian?
Nothing really planned, but yeah, certainly, of course, drives that whole story. And it takes a lot of time and also motivation. So I don't have that many plans yet. We had a very tough time before Christmas, so I took a few more days off afterwards with the launch, where we spent time with the family. But otherwise, yeah, focus on making sure that this year really is the year of CPaaS, and that we also have tangible results actually, and a lot of use cases. And it's a fun topic. Yeah, I keep I'm very enthusiastic because being able to do that in companies such as or in a group actually such as telecom and make learning on one hand from the many conversations we have with what on the in other contexts are competitors, but now you exchange yourself, you find players, you evaluate strengths and so on, you make decisions. I think it's very interesting, and it's a very crucial year for us for that, and that's going to take a lot of my time. So I frankly don't have travel plans yet. Of course,
I hope your boss is actually watching this video, Sebastian. So
that's right.
No, I mean, Kevin knows that from the past. For me, it's really something I like it, and I think it makes sense. But being able again to do this, people sometimes laugh at me and make fun of the resilience I still have trying to do this from within. But I really believe this is interesting, and I really see that colleagues are getting passionate, and they kind of jump on the train. We started with the recent layoffs. We could get some great hires as well. So we also internally get people on board that have a complete different set of expertise. Some of them even friends from the past. So actually it's exciting to it's an exciting year. It's an exciting times, and to be able to look at that from various points of the organization as well, than rather as in the past just trying to get something out there. Now we get the strategic focus. Now we get more people on board. It's sometimes harder, but oftentimes in the long run, of course, you can do much more than being just in your innovation corner. So that's actually that's actually it for me for the majority of the year.
That's great. No, I'm feeling the passion. So it's awesome when literally our work can be our hobby and our passion. And I know over the years, Sebastian, that you were are the guy on all of that. So really appreciate everything you've shared with us today. Ahmed, how about yourself? What's coming up in the near future for you?
I think for me, again, on the personal level, I actually was in Egypt last week for a week. Went into a few places within the country. And I think beside Mobile World Congress, Enterprise Connect in Florida is also an exciting event. I think this is where me and Kevin also had a very good time last year when he was in Avenir. I think it becomes a really exciting forum where you get yourself in touch with what's happening in the value chains. Apart from the standard API providers, I usually like to go on the sides of the exhibitions where there is really, really exciting concepts. And I think this will be also part of the plan. Of course, I mean, with the weather in Dubai, Kevin, nobody stays out of these months. I mean, it's the best weather that we have. But again, I have also personal plans to go to the Caribbean, hopefully in April or May. But I would love to catch up, guys, if you are in the Enterprise Connect very soon. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Myself, I will definitely be at MWC as well. And then actually next week, this is a concept that I think we need to work on from a carrier perspective. I'm hosting what we're calling the CPaaS Showcase Challenge at IT Expo next week. We did this 3 weeks ago at the Cloud Communications Alliance event that they had, and we're doing it again at IT Expo. And we have 4 different participants doing live demos, and then it's like American Idol style where we actually have 4 or 5 judges critiquing, giving opinions. We have the audience voting for their favorite demonstrations, and so it's quite entertaining, but very educational.
Do we have to fund any venture capital in this one, or it's?
We could do Shark Tank right alongside. We'll just put it all together in one big show, and so we do that. We'll also be hosting a private dinner at Enterprise Connect, and so we'll definitely coordinate on that moving forward, and how our members can participate and get access to some really interesting information on that one. So again, thank you so much for your time. I think we've had a very meaningful discussion that will impact a number of individuals out there that are either just getting started, have been told to get started, or even veterans like ourselves. I think I've taken a number of notes already just based on our conversation here. So appreciate the time and the effort, and we'll meet up soon as our global travels take place. Have a great day.
You too. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.